Well, we are nearly at the end of 2024 and we've been working on a little series for the last few weeks or a few months actually with the team at Legacy Livestock. It's something that's come up time and time again across the whole Humans of Ag journey. And it's something which I know I've had dreams and still have dreams of farming for myself and wondering how do you make that possible? So the team at Legacy Livestock, we got chatting to them and one of the areas was around the next gen and how do people get a start? They might have some land or they might be looking at leasing. And what are the options in and around how they finance that farming operation? When we say that we partnered with Legacy Livestock, we've made sure that we've kept full editorial control. That's something that is non-negotiable for us in everything we do. And we've just really got curious about the questions that we wanted to know and that you guys as our audience want to know when it comes to financing your farm. So over the next 3 parts, we're sitting down with their CEO, Richard Brimblecombe, understanding a little bit about who he is, what his journey's like, when he's got the chance to be inside the farm gate, back at his home property, why has he decided to pursue a career in finance, and how's the state of finance changing within the ag industry? We want to make it super clear that this series is definitely general in nature. I'm no financial expert. If you're looking at financing your farm, seek out the support of somebody in the know, whether that's Legacy Livestock or someone else. Make sure you reach out to them. And let's get into it. So as we jump into this episode, I thought it was pretty important before I go and share all my dreams and ambitions with Richard that I understand a little bit more about who he is and what that pathway has been like. One thing I'm keen to explore and share is living out one of my childhood dreams, which was to have a sheep and wool property. And I guess as a kid, like I just remember all the different summers and it was the best time with family and friends coming together in the shearing shed. There was so much action and fun. My brother might have hopped on the back of a sheep once or twice as well back in the backyards. But as I've spent more time in the industry and started to see a few different operations, it's really about how do you go from being the operator to running it like a business. And that comes with spending less time on the board, less time with your hands in the wool, and more time working with people, with the team, and making the decisions that's going to progress the business forward. So as we go throughout this, you're going to hear a few hypotheticals that come maybe to real life one day. But these are the questions and things that we and I really want to know if I was to be running this sheep farm today. Richard Brimblecombe, it's fantastic to have you on the Humans of Agriculture podcast.
Thanks, Ollie. It's great to be here. I'm really looking forward to catching up with you.
And we are in Melbourne here in the studio, not too far from Armidale. So, mate, it's great to have you down here.
Yeah, it's great to be here, and it's a wonderful day in Melbourne today. So I was quite surprised. It's warm and sunny, and a great summer's day.
It's like this every day, Richard. Yeah. Mate, talk to me a little bit about, obviously, as part of this series, I've got my hypothetical dream, which I'm a new and upcoming sheep and lamb producer. I think we'll stick with sheep and lamb because it's all generic.
Yep.
I've been funded by the bank of mum and dad. And now I'm looking to kind of get on with the business side of things a little bit. I've reached a point where I really want to know like what's next for the business. So I've been spending a lot of my time in the nitty gritty of the farming business, and I actually want to be able to try and grow it, employ people, all of that fun stuff that comes with it, and start to build a real bit of wealth. And so that's, I guess, the setup to then coming to what the series is going to be around livestock finance and how it all works. And for me, I guess I've always looked at the different areas of financing and it's conversations that happen all the time in agriculture of how does that next generation get the start. Obviously, land prices have tripled in the last 10 years. It feels like it's harder and maybe it is harder than what it has been historically, but there's definitely still ways out there. But I'd love to know for you, what's that connection to agriculture and where did it all start for you?
Yeah, thanks, Ollie. Well, born and bred on a mixed farming operation in southern Queensland. So my folks actually were into horticulture, dry land and irrigated grain, lucerne, and also cattle production. So it had quite a mixed enterprise, and grew up in that sort of family farming unit, and never really been able to get that ag or that sense of ag out of my veins. So all of my working life, I've been heavily involved in ag, including both production assets. As well as services to ag. So I've spent a fair bit of time in banking and finance, commodity trading. I spent a little bit of time in renewable energy as a bit of an ag adjacency, and so always involved in ag. Just never been able to get it out of my system. It's what I love, and it's where I want to be.
What do you reckon it is about agriculture that's kept you in it? Obviously, I'd say you've gone down the professional agribusiness side of it, but still living on a cattle station today. What is it about the industry?
I think the first answer is the people. So it's an industry that's just full of wonderful people, down to earth. They're trying to make an honest living. They're having a go, trying to raise their families. Instilling really good values and sense of community, and that's what I see. So I just love being associated with an industry that's filled with those types of people.
And for you, you've really focused in on that finance side of things. Started off really early in your career as an agri banker. Was it the pathway that was obvious to you?
I came out of the womb just understanding numbers, and it's been like that my whole life. And so, without really working at it, my maths results and sort of science-based results at school were always really, really good. And I've always just understood numbers. They're a language that speaks to me. And so I guess no surprise that I was attracted into sort of banking and finance as an industry where I've spent most of my time, and I really enjoy it.
And the balance of going outside the farm gate, which you have done, spent a little bit of time in capital cities.
Yeah.
Why has that, I guess, benefited you today?
Yeah, so, what it's done is given me a real sense for, I guess the other side of the counter in terms of the people that are, and the businesses that are supporting agriculture. So, the financial systems, corporate ag, corporate financial markets, how all of those things work, how they come together, and how we can use them effectively as primary producers for our benefit.
And I know we're going to talk a lot about finance, but the things that have changed since you started in your career as an agri-banker, and maybe if we go macro to start off with, let's go wide. What have you seen change about Australian ag over the last, let's call it 20, 30 years?
Yeah, well, shows my age a little bit, doesn't it? 30 years, I can speak to that. But I think, some things haven't changed at all. And, there's wonderful people in the industry and, trying, to make an honest living and do things really, really well. And, I think the thing that I've really noticed over the last, 30 years or so is this uptake of tech. So there's, I know personally when I'm wandering around the place that my wife runs, our cattle operation, we're using a number of different tech apps that support us in our management endeavours of that property. So there is, management tools available now that haven't been available before, and I think it's great that there are so many good Aussie tech companies doing wonderful things out there at the moment. So that's, one of the big changes. And I think, we were reminiscing before, it is harder. It's got more and more difficult to get a start in agriculture. People are having to be more and more innovative, I think it's the challenge of getting started in ag is greater today than it was, say, 30 years ago. The relativity of land prices today compared to the commodity prices has definitely changed.
Absolutely. And while we're on the topic of the property and the farm that you call home, talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my wife and I live about 5 hours west of Brisbane on the Southern Downs in southern Queensland, on the Western Downs in southern Queensland. Got a property 6 k's south of Glenmorgan there. We run an F1 Wagyu operation. When I say we, I really mean my wife. She's a Roma girl originally, and so steeped in the beef industry, and she gets to have all the fun. She runs around with the dogs on the side-by-side, moving cattle and checking waters and keeping it going operationally. And I'm kind of, stuck in the office, working with the team and supporting our clients. So often I'm peering out the window and watching her whiz past on the side-by-side. And sometimes it feels a bit cruel, actually.
I'd love to know, and this is something that I often think about for myself, but when you love farming and you've got the opportunity that you could do it every single day, what is it about the stuff outside the farm gate that has really pulled you and has got you so passionately determined to be involved?
It's a really, really easy question to answer, actually, Ollie, and it's just the opportunity to help farming families. So I'm, my wife and I spent some time working out our own personal values, and one of the values that we very quickly articulated was a desire to offer service to others. And so I guess all of my life I've been engaged in industries where we're actually servicing primary producers. We're helping them to be successful, to achieve their dreams and aspirations. And so that's the real pull for me, and the thing that I get really excited about is seeing clients succeed and achieve their ambitions.
And I don't want you to necessarily talk on your wife's behalf, but I'd be interested as like, how does she get away and how does she get a break when I presume that you go and see all these different things and you come home and nearly your break is on the farm?
I fly back into Brisbane from Melbourne, and after a week on the road, and it's a 5-hour drive home. And once I'm home, I really want to immerse myself in the farm. And she's been on the property all week, often on her own, keeping things going. And she's just ready to jump in the car and head to Toowoomba for a weekend of shopping or something. So it's a balance, and we work through that together. And but look, we've got 2 adult children, and we love immersing ourselves in their lives and supporting them and helping them grow. And so we either have them out at Clearwater visiting us, or we're seeing them on the coast or in Toowoomba. So yeah,
half your luck. One other question I'd love to ask you: you can't name your home property as it, but with what you've seen, where would you say God's country is in Australian agriculture?
Yeah, this is probably going to seem like I'm dodging the question, but. So, I think it comes down to what works for the individual and where their heart is. I mean, I love the Western Downs of southern Queensland. It's good quality country, quasi-reliable rainfall, but it's actually, we're only 4 or 5 hours to Brisbane, the Gold Coast, 3 hours to Toowoomba, so we can get away and have a reasonable weekend away, watch some rugby or whatever if we want to. So that works for us.
Now, livestock financing side of things, or agricultural financing, at what stage did you start to see it changing? Because obviously your career, bit of time with Stockco.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to be able to take us back a bit.
So I actually had 10 years with Suncorp, almost exclusively in agribusiness roles, and went from a kind of a junior loans officer to regional manager of North Queensland for their agribusiness and business banking operation, and saw quite a bit of consolidation in the banking industry. I was part of the old QIDC, Queensland Industry Development Corporation, and it got rolled up in a merger between QIDC, Suncorp and the Metway Bank. And so that was, a very interesting time, a 3-way merger. I left there and spent 6 years with Namoy Cotton, which is, again, recently actually, transacted. It's been sold to Louis Dreyfus, and I had 6 years there, worked with Nutrien as GM of Northern Australia for Nutrien for a few years, and kind of had my midlife crisis, took some time out, went and did an MBA at Bond Uni, wanted to sort of explore that I guess the academic side of things and build out the theory behind the practice that I'd been engaged in. And then back into banking, I was basically ran CBA's regional and agri operation for Queensland, Northern Territory and the top end of Western Australia. So there saw a lot of change. I think the big change has happened since I've left the actual banking industry per se. I'm still involved in finance, but I think the Hayne Royal Commission in 2018-19 did result in a lot of change in the banking industry, and a lot of people that I talk to in the industry say, look, it's not as much fun as it used to be. It's a lot more about compliance now than perhaps it was. It's harder to spend the time focusing on servicing the client than it used to be. And, all good bankers, that's all they want to do is get a good result for their clients. So I think, there are a lot of other compliance factors that have come into banking now that weren't there. I don't want to be too controversial here, but I actually said at the time that the Hayne Royal Commission was announced was that, we kind of got to be careful what we ask for. And I felt that there was a real risk that in the interests of protecting, some people who had been impacted by, adverse actions conducted by banks, that there would be this big cohort of people, the vast majority of people who are being well supported by their bank, enjoying good banking relationships, who would have an overlay of regulation that wasn't previously there that would impact the quality of the service they got from their banks. And I honestly believe that's happened. So, I think it was all well intended and there were some things that needed to be addressed, I'm sure of that. But unfortunately, one of the challenges in trying to minimise the chance of any negative outcome for any one individual family is that, many, many others are impacted. There are these unintended consequences, and I think we've seen some of that.
Before we jump into the next section where I'm going to explore my farming and hypothetical option with Richard, a little bit about Legacy Livestock. They're delivering livestock finance to progressive Australian producers. They know that the right livestock funding solution can help farmers realise the true potential in their paddock. And they know the best way to deliver livestock lending is through an expert who knows the industry and works closely with you. To find out more, head to legacylivestock.com.au. I want to move to be able to pick your brain through your expertise. And so I want to pull it back to look at, I guess, this scenario which we've created. So I've been fortunate, mid-30s, I've been able to take over the family farm, and I've got a sheep and lamb operation. It's something that I guess I've got dreams of what it can be. Down the track, I'd love to be working closer with consumer brands and all of that. But right now, my livestock agent is basically the bloke at the local footy club. I don't necessarily have any advisors or anyone like that. So I guess what we're looking at here is I want to increase the number of stock we've got on our property, and I don't necessarily know how to go about it. In those early stages of that, I'm Googling and I come across you guys at Legacy Livestock. Where's the starting point for me?
Yeah. It's a great question, and I think one of the challenges for young farmers in particular is really how do I accumulate external information that I can use to help me on my journey? And so certainly talk to your banker, talk to Legacy. We've got some really experienced people in the team. But also, there are things like Farm Owners Academy, RCS, Resource Consulting Services, grazing for profit courses. There are a lot of different courses out there that you can go to, and I'd really encourage young people in particular to accumulate as much knowledge and external input as they can. And I think the trick is to seek the information out, acquire it, and then understand how you can put it to work in the context of your business, because every farming business is different. Every farming business has got a different environment that it's trying to succeed in. It's got a different balance sheet structure. It's got different rainfall. It's got different pastures. You're focusing on different breeds. And so all of those things mean that your business is really unique.
And would you say that there's no one way when it comes to, say, financing it? There's no one solution that's going to be best. It's going to depend on, exactly as you say, risk appetite, type of management, stock, rainfall, et cetera, et cetera.
So, our interest is in understanding your business and all of the unique aspects that make your business what it is, the unique challenges you're facing, and, how we can assist you to actually work through those challenges and be successful and actually maximise the profit that you're generating from the available pasture that you grow on your property. And so, we don't push a product down your throat. It's really about saying, what is it you need to be most successful, and how can we structure something to suit your individual need?
So can I ask a question then, like for you guys, how do you, knowing that there's that volatility in individual businesses, how do you guys make that work for you? Because you're a business as well.
Yeah. It's a great question, and we're constantly thinking about how cash flows through our business. And to give you an example, what we see when markets deflate or go down, or it gets dry and the rate of weight gain diminishes, is that people tend to hold on to the stock longer. And so that means that we've got to wait longer before we actually receive any interest income and we get the principal back. But our funders are required to be paid on a monthly basis, for example. So those things present unique challenges for us. And the answer is really to make sure that we've got an appropriate level of capital, that our balance sheet is appropriately capitalised at the bottom, that we've got the flexibility to actually run with our clients and ride through those changing circumstances and support them. We actually had put a story up on our website last week about a client where we actually extended their loan multiple times for a really good reason to help them achieve a better outcome, and in the end got a really good outcome for them, and we're really pleased to do that.
It'd be a pretty interesting spot that you get to sit with alongside your clients, where you really are on that business journey with them.
Yeah. No, we very much feel like we're on the journey with them, Ollie. It's, I think, a great way of putting it. So we're kind of, we're in the
highs and the lows.
Yeah, we're in the front seat of the ute and the windows down, and we're going forward with them. So yeah.
Do you guys see a certain type of person or demographic or group of people? Is it younger people that are more likely to use you, or who do you guys see as your, if we say it, and we don't want to generalise, but a typical client?
Our typical client is probably in their 40s to 50s. So, the succession has happened. They've got, they're now, in control of the farming asset. A lot of our clients are actually wanting to grow. They're really well supported by their bank, but they're progressive in nature. They're wanting to grow the business because they're conscious the next generation's coming through. They want to broaden the base of the business so that they can accommodate that next generation. They might have 2 or 3 kids that the current property was split up amongst, so they want to buy another place or improve the capacity of the existing place. So because they're progressive, they're trying to grow at a rate that is a bit faster than the bank is comfortable to fund them at. And so they'll often come to us. We'll get them running at full capacity, maximise those incomes. And look, it's not unusual. It's a bit bittersweet for us, but after 2 or 3 years of providing really good support to a client, for that client to actually come to us and say, look, I don't know how to tell you this, Richard, but the bank's refinancing you because they can do it at a lower rate, and that's really bittersweet for us because we've been on the journey with the client, but it also means that we've succeeded in what we set out to do with that client, and so we kind of celebrate that as a success as we're waving the client goodbye, and so once they get their head around how they can really make our capital work for them. We see them coming back, but it's not unusual for us to do business with a client for 2 or 3 years and then actually see that business move back to their bank once the bank's got comfortable.
Interesting. And so to me, it sounds like you work a lot with them at those different business growth stages, and then it's like, okay, well, that maybe the kids have got into high school, and so we've been conservative for the last couple of years. We've saved up what we needed to do for that, and then now they're getting towards the end of high school, we're good to go again, and that's when they leverage you, for instance.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if the kids have been in private school, they've probably been bled out on school fees a little bit as well. So
you don't finance that?
Yeah. So, no, that one's just slightly outside our remit, Ollie, but, we can certainly help them finance, the land. And look, often a really good example is, buying the neighbour or a major CapEx project, so a major program to uplift the carrying capacity of the existing property, improve pasture, breaking the paddocks down, more waters, those sorts of things. And so often the bank's really happy to fund that because it's improving the value of the bank's primary security, which is the farm, which the bank has a mortgage over. But then you've got the challenge of saying, well, I can run all of these extra stock now. I've increased my loan with the bank. They're not all that excited about giving me more money for the stock. How do I actually maximise the opportunity that I've created for myself? And I think that's the legitimate role of a company like Legacy Livestock.
Well, Richard, I'm excited in part 2 and part 3 of this to really delve into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty and look at, I guess, in my business case, like how I could actually look at using you guys at those different stages and as different challenges pop up, whether that be a drought, fire, flood, or maybe even personal circumstances as well. So I'm looking forward to jumping into that with you.
Super excited to get into it with you, Ollie.
Well, guys, that's it for the first episode of our 3-part series with Legacy Livestock. We got to know Richard a little bit more about his backstory, and I got to start to share a little bit of my dream with you. If you do want to know more and get in touch with the team, hit them up at legacylivestock.com.au. As we head into the next episode, we're going to start to go a little bit further into some of the scenarios and things that can happen and different times that you might need some finance and support. We know that farming does come with highs and lows, and some of them can be incredibly debilitating and challenging. So we want to put it out there. We're trying to use real stories, real scenarios that hopefully paint a picture and help you get ahead with what you're trying to do. If you're not following the Humans of Agriculture podcast, pretty good time to hit follow and subscribe. We love your feedback, whether it's with this episode or one of our other stories, or if you've got an idea as well for someone that we should chat to. Hit us up at humansofagriculture.com. See ya.